Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kira. I am the founder and CEO of Paradigm People Operations Consulting. Paradigm was founded because small businesses deserve to have the same access to HR resources as larger corporations, but it needs to be in a way that we can afford it and that our team and we can benefit from it. So as a result, Paradigm has served over 100 small businesses through our signature service. In our signature service, we provide an employee handbook that's customized to the individualized business. If you are landing on this video and you're in a place in your business to be stepping into a leadership role, don't forget to click on the links below so that you can take our leadership archetype quiz. Because whether you are leading a team for the first time or you're starting to get into the mode of starting to hire for the first time, understanding who you are as a leader is going to be one of the main drivers of your culture and therefore your policies, which brings us to our handbook. So first I want to start because you landed on this video knowing that you were going to learn how you can create an employee handbook that actually protects you and serves you. So I just want to make sure that right out the gate, we are defining what an employee handbook is. And if you're like most visionary founders and CEOs or leaders out there, then sometimes it can help to know what an employee handbook is not. And oftentimes when I do consultations with business owners that are starting a team for the first time, they might mention something about having an employee manual or something like that their team can lean into. And then upon further investigation, we find out that there's just a couple of terms that are being misused. So before diving in, I want to make sure that we're really establishing what a handbook is not. And it is not a brand guide or a culture guide. Nowhere in your employee handbook will it serve you to have your brand colors, your logos, anything like that. We want to keep our handbooks to the nitty gritty, the black and white. We don't want to bring in creative elements or things that are going to have or cause any type of differentiating opinions or perspectives. A handbook should be something where you walk away with an answer. That is also why we don't call it an employee manual. By definition, a handbook is going to be something that your employee can open up or grab, look to, and grab some advice, an answer, or something that you as a business owner can look to and get the answer that you need based on the policies that you've established. The manual is something that is going to guide someone through learning a process. So when I often hear business owners talk about their employee manual, my brain goes right to that is how their employees get trained. So a handbook is not a training manual and it's not an SOP library. It's not a place to put processes or anything that could be developed, evolved, or changed on a pretty significant basis. We want to go into the process of creating our handbook in the best way that it can protect us and protect our teams. And that is by making sure that all of the information in there is black and white. There's no real debate about it. There's no confusion about it. There's really no opinion about it. It is just what we have decided holds the place, the single source of truth for the policies that are going to help us drive our business forward, be successful, and create a space for our employees to thrive. So I just want to say that realistically, a guideline to all of the behaviors that your employees will exhibit, a guideline for you and how you behave as a boss, making sure that everyone who represents your company as a leader also has a guideline that they can follow. That is what the summary of an employee handbook is. And we're not going to get into policies in this video because we're really looking high level as how this should function in your business. At any point in this video, if you feel like you're missing something, know that on our channel, we're going to be creating tons of resources for you to come back to, either while you're building your own handbook or maybe reviewing your handbook and seeing if something just doesn't feel right. So make sure that you are following and subscribing to the channel and letting us know what you would like to see in the future as we continue to develop this series. So with that guideline, it is going to be driving behaviors. And that is not behaviors like clock in every single day at 9 a.m. Those types of things can get a little bit confusing if you add them to the handbook. And it makes it so that your company, especially if it's a remote business that has a little bit more flexibility, would need to be updated all the time. We're talking about more core behaviors like what happens if an employee feels that they have been harassed? What happens if they feel that they need to go to a supervisor for support and they want to make sure that they're protected in the process? More than anything else in HR, we hear about how employees think that HR works for the company and not for them. If that is the type of HR advice that you're looking for, then this is probably not going to be the right video for you. The employee handbook is going to be a place where both sides, the business and the employee, can get the same information and walk down the same path together. Even if there are disagreements or frustrations or friction along those lines, that's okay, normal, and healthy. I would actually argue that we want employees that are going to help us push the boundaries a little bit. But when designing a handbook, it's more strategic than any other piece of HR or really any type of compliance materials that you're going to have in your business that is going to be able to be referred back to and constantly looked to for support, guidance, and things like that. It's very rarely going to be something that is going to change super often or cause a lot of confusion. It's meant to dispel confusion and create fewer conversations. We always like to say that quiet HR is good HR. That is what we want our handbook to do, to be clear and straightforward and direct. In order to understand the role that this plays in your business and how those copacetic behaviors start to work together in the interest of your business, is to understand your handbook like a good cop, bad cop situation. I happen to be a person that maybe throughout my last 12, 13 years of leadership has not always enjoyed having to step into the bad cop situation. Have I been pushed at times and often want to make sure that the mission or the vision or whatever it is that I'm arguing on behalf of requires me to step into that kind of more transactional leadership mode? Yes, for sure. But really, that's what, in my opinion, makes a good leader. But the nice thing is that when your handbook exists and it's something everyone can rely on, and you're not going in and changing it all the time, or you're not confident in it, then it can be the bad cop of those really high level behaviors in your business, so that you can focus on enforcing the handbook and letting the handbook speak for you. So it could be something as simple as turning a conversation with an employee about the way something should have gone with another employee. Perhaps there's a disagreement or something like that, to saying like, well, as in our handbook, and it states very clearly that this behavior is not allowed to take place at our work environment. So unfortunately, in this situation, we're going to have to enforce that. And whether that's through just a quick, disciplinary action type of conversation, or something more serious like a write-up or something that you're going to want to document, that is absolutely 100% up to you, and also could be laid out in those policies. If someone comes to you and they say, I don't understand why this person got treated this way and I got treated this way when we did the same thing, the handbook is actually going to help guide you through the process of how to make sure that you are not creating discriminatory behaviors in your business. So you can actually really lean in and make sure that you have the back of your company, not necessarily having to go out on a limb and be the bad cop. You can say, listen, the handbook says that this is the way that this should be handled, and that's what we did. We want to make sure that we're preserving the experience of all of our team members so that you have the same opportunity for success. And that is going to be something that is going to be really, really valuable as you grow your business. And when you have something that you're leaning on, that you're unequivocally behind, then your handbook is going to do a lot of that talking for you. And you're going to notice that your team may go to the handbook before they go to you. And they're going to be able to look and see what those expectations are. Are there practices that can help create a better success point for this so that you never have to talk about your handbook? Absolutely. Especially when you're first learning how to build and grow a team and building a handbook that's going to have the back of your team. This can be one of the best pieces of relief that you can have, to know that a lot of these things are handled up front. So the handbook really is a vehicle for presenting your adherence to you and your team's compliance. So it's not a requirement for your business in any way. In most cases, it's not a legal requirement for a business to have a handbook, but it is becoming more and more obvious how much a handbook is going to play in regards to basic business and small business compliance. So over the years, even in the last 5 years that I've been helping small businesses, my perspective has changed, because back then, in 2020, labor laws were a little bit different because they hadn't quite adapted to the experience of the remote team. Now, there are so many things that we're going to want to create policies for, educate our team on, that are going to drive our culture. And so I'm finding it more and more often that I'm recommending that a handbook is the first thing that you do. So granted, we want to make sure that it's not super overwhelming, and we are going to have additional resources that you can look into if you want to just get started and have a handbook that's working for you right out the gate. But at the end of the day, if you have a multi-state team, keep in mind that there's going to be not only your solid handbook that needs to be representative of your company as a whole, but there may be additional addendums that are going to come with having different employees in different states. And we can help you navigate that. So if you are writing the handbook yourself, opt for policies that you understand and stand behind. So what does this mean? If you download some random handbook from a payroll provider, not only is that not going to be able to infuse your culture in the end result, but it's also going to be full of things that you may not know you're agreeing to. So when you do sit down to have a conversation with your employee and they're like, well, I looked in the handbook and I found this, and then it comes to your attention that maybe you weren't doing something right or presenting the information correctly or something like that, that can definitely get you in hot water, not to mention just erodes the trust of your team, that their leader doesn't maybe know what they're talking about, which is the worst feeling. So now, is there space for leaders to make mistakes? Tons of mistakes. Absolutely. I'm never going to say you have to be perfect. But when it comes to something as important as the legalities and compliance of your team that is literally created to keep them safe and to keep your company protected, you want to feel so solid about those things that no one can break you down. Over time, there may be changes that happen in your handbook, but make it a priority that the policies that you have in your handbook you understand through and through. You can almost quote them, you can almost recite them, because the reality of the situation is your culture with your business may evolve a little bit, but not a ton. If we are using our policies to drive forward our culture, then our policies are only really going to change when they legally have to, or when it's really going to benefit the business and the team. And as you become a more seasoned leader, you're going to understand how you can leverage your handbook to do a lot of that management for you. Your team's going to be able to rely on it, makes them feel safe and secure. You are going to be able to rely on it even when something's uncomfortable. You know that you have to fulfill the commitment that you made to it. And it just kind of takes that extra decision making out of the process where you also know that your company's protected. And that's really why we say quiet HR is good HR. Because if you're not hearing about it all the time, then that means your team is getting the answers that they need. And that's really empowering them to make decisions, be creative, and work on the behalf of the best interest of your company, as long as those policies in that handbook are very well and clearly written. So if you are putting something together now on your own, make sure that you are referencing the links below so that we can get you a good start. Above anything else, make sure that you understand the policies that you're having your team sign off on. We'll continue to put out resources for you in the future. So just keep in mind that you are making just as much of a commitment to these policies as you are asking your team to. And take that seriously, and you likely will end up in a much better situation, even if your handbook is really small and only has 5 or 6 policies out the gate, a couple that are legally required by your state, a couple that really help you move the needle in your business, and a couple that you really like to grow into. That's an excellent place to start. But at the end of the day, as long as you take it seriously what your handbook is doing for your business, then your team will too. And that is what creates an environment where your company can thrive alongside your team's best interests. And it really takes out that stigma that HR is not good for your team, because actually that is what we stand for. We want to make sure that the team is given the best possible tools to do the best possible work, to put more money in the pocket of the company, which hopefully gets filtered back into the well-being of the team and the company overall. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you subscribe. Click on some of the links below, depending on where you're at in your business and your development. And I hope this cleared up some of the confusion about how a handbook should play a role in your business. And I look forward to seeing you back on our next video, and I'll see you soon.